I explained what financial independence is. It's that end goal. It's never having to work again. But financial freedom is something you can achieve on your way to financial independence. It is still maybe having debt, but feeling confident or having a debt payoff plan. And so it's not necessarily an external thing or number that you're checking off about financial freedom. It's your ability to have options, and you can still have options in any of these stages. I really believe if you have a thought in your head, it's there for a reason. Look at maybe a dream that you have or a goal as a memory, not as something that didn't happen yet.
Ooh,
and so if that's the case, if that's the case, then it's meant for you to have. Hi, it's Jamila Souffrant, and you're listening to Dreams and Drive.
Hey, Dream Drivers. Welcome to episode 375 of the Dreams and Drive podcast. I want to say Happy New Year and also happy 8 years to this podcast. Back in January 2016, some of you may have met or listened to this show for the first time, and I can't believe it's been 8 years of producing great content, interviewing some great storytellers, and learning more about their dream driving journeys and how they've been able to take a dream from park to drive. If you've been rocking with me since 2016, thank you so much for driving along this journey. If this is your first time listening, welcome. I am just so happy to just think that I did not give up on myself. I think a lot of times we think that we have to accomplish everything on our bucket list and not really think about the journey that we're on. And, the past 8 years has definitely been a journey. I have changed so much has happened. I didn't necessarily want to do like a recap episode. I don't necessarily think that we always have to do that for every year that we every anniversary that we celebrate. But I just want to say thank you and want to let you guys all know that, look, I've been rocking. I've been doing this thing for 8 years. So if you have a dream that you're working on, do not look at the time. Just look at it as a symbol that you have continued and you are going and you have never given up along your dream driving journey, because I haven't. And, this is something that I'm just so grateful that I've been able to share with you all. So today in the guest chair, we are having a past guest. So new episode, guest who's ready to be on the show, episode 181 guest, Jamila Souffrant. And she's someone who's very special to me. Jamila was is part of one of my podcast mastermind groups. We have known each other for quite a while now and been able to learn from her and have admired so much as she's done with her own podcast platform, Journey to Launch. So we're going to have Jamila back in the guest chair today to talk about the steps you can take to achieve financial freedom. And I think this is a great way to ring in the new year, because there's so much that we all can take from it. Because let's face it, finances are at the core of being able to live a peaceful, dream driving life, right? We all need finances to live. We all want to have health and happiness. And how can we do that, right? Having that financial freedom is one way to be able to do that, and is one way that we're able to put our own dreams into drive. So here's a little bit more about Jamila, just in case you guys don't know or haven't listened to episode 181. Jamila is the author of Your Journey to Financial Freedom, a step-by-step guide to achieving wealth and happiness. She launched that December of last year, and this episode was actually recorded last year. So this book is now available everywhere. I have it, love it. Jamila is considered a go-to thought leader in the personal finance field, and her work has been featured in places like BuzzFeed, Essence, Refinery 29, Money Magazine, CNBC, CBS, Business Insider, and more. And her podcast, The Journey to Launch podcast, has over 4 million downloads and was listed by the New York Times as a podcast to help you get better with your money. So this episode, we're going to talk about a lot. We're going to give you the breakdown, if you haven't listened, to what Jamila's path to financial freedom and financial independence looks like, the changes she had to make in order to become financially free. And these are changes that you can make too. Why Jamila defines herself as a millionaire. Yes, a millionaire. The first steps that you can take to become financially free. We're going to be talking about the journey or stages that she takes people on in her book. And also some of the big challenges that we're all going to face along this journey, such as how to train your mindset and habits, and facing some of those deeper issues that may be limiting our ability to reach financial freedom. So there's so much in this episode. It's not super long. It's super impactful. Make sure that you listen to it to the end. Make sure you buy Jamila's book, and also take notes. Share this episode with anyone that you think will benefit from going and embarking along not only a dream driving journey, but a journey to financial freedom. If this is your first time listening, hit subscribe. Make sure that you're following us across all social medias. You can find us at Dreams and Drive, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, everywhere. And also, lastly, if you want to join our email newsletter, The Keys, and get weekly email updates delivered right to your inbox, just go to dreamsanddrive.com/join. That's dreamsanddrive.com/join. All right, let's hear from Jamila.
Hi, Raina.
I am so excited to have you back in the guest chair. As many of you guys know, if you listen to the podcast before, Jamila has been on the show. It's funny because the release date for that episode was actually November 18th, 2018. Can you, that was 5 years ago. So much.
That's crazy. Right? It doesn't feel like that far ago, but I do remember, Raina, that we kind of started our little podcast mastermind, and I was like either pregnant or had just given birth to Blake. So I was kind of like in your situation now, right?
I remember you were nursing. You were always on the calls like, hey guys, I'm nursing. I'm like, oh, you're always nursing. But now that I know, it's like.
Right. Well, Blake is 5 now. So it's crazy. It's just insane the way time flies.
Time just flies. Happened. I'm like, it doesn't feel like 5 years. We've been podcasting for more than that. So you know, I wanted to start this episode just letting people know just who you are, right? If you guys don't know, you were on episode 181 of the podcast. And on that episode, you really chronicled how you and your husband were able to save $169,000 in 2 years. You quit your job and became like a full-time entrepreneur. At that point, it was full-time, right? 2018, you were doing it full-time?
Yeah, well, it probably, so by November, I was officially public full-time that I had quit my job, because I quit right after I gave birth, or after my maternity leave, which ended in like September or October of 2018.
Okay. So if you guys want the full story of how Jamila got to that point and what she's been doing, go back and listen to that episode. But this episode, actually, you know what? For people who haven't, give us a little 3-second download of who you are, right? And then we'll zoom out of there real quick after that.
Okay, I'll try to be quick, but maybe not. So, you know, my journey, I always think when people ask me this, do I go all the way back to like my birthplace, because it's so important and to where I've come from and where I am now. But I think I will in this scenario. So I was born on the beautiful island of Jamaica to a single mom. Yeah. And she was only 20 years old when she had me. And like many immigrants or people who are looking for opportunity, she was so brave at that age. She had to leave me behind to come to the United States, to New York, to establish herself a bit, and then send for me when my papers came through. And so I grew up, you know, in very humble beginnings. My mom really worked her way through the system, through, you know, a new country she's never been to, with new weather. You know, she never experienced winter, but she was so determined to become successful. And I say that that's part of my origin story, because while she didn't sit down and teach me specific money lessons, I watched her be able to handle the little bit of opportunities and money that she had to put herself in a such better position later on in life. So she ended up getting her bachelor's, then master's degree, and she got better paying jobs. And she always invested in me in terms of love and care. And it just made me feel like I could do anything. And so I was a very rambunctious or confident child, and that grew me into the adult you see now. And I was always interested in money in terms of I wanted to be rich. I didn't want to work for anyone. I wanted to be just free. But then life happened. Then I got my first job. And then I was just like, how am I not going to work? I need to work for money. And so I did that. I kind of just like slid into this idea of there's no way to not work unless I get married rich or win the lottery or build a big business. And none of those 3 things happened in my 20s. And so I was like, all right, this is just it. Let me just accept it. I'll go to work with this long commute. I get paid good money, but you know, everyone around me is working in things they don't like. But like, who am I to complain? But when I got pregnant with my first son and I had that commute at 31, I said to myself, I can't do this. And I knew I wanted more kids. So that's what prompted me to search out and seek out how to quit my job, how to achieve financial independence. And it led me to the FIRE movement, the Financial Independence Retire Early movement, led me to podcasts and blogs. And I discovered that there was a way to have freedom and independence just by saving and investing your money over time. And, some people could do it in 5 years, 10 years, or 15 years. It all depends on your circumstances. But I said to myself, why not attempt this? Like, there's nothing to lose, like, to attempt this journey. And with that, I started to make drastic or really significant changes to my finances, which is where we probably spoke about me saving and investing $169,000 in 2 years. Eventually, all of that led me to deepening my involvement in the space of having a blog and podcast. So I started Journey to Launch to share my journey and to have a voice in the space, and then eventually quit my job. And now fast forward 5 years from the last time we spoke, I now have a book coming out December 5th, Your Journey to Financial Freedom, a step-by-step guide to achieving wealth and happiness that basically puts my whole framework and roadmap to how you can achieve freedom the way I have and even more than what I've accomplished so far, and apply it to your own life.
Okay, listen, you guys don't know, Jamila is the pro, not only just at telling your story just now. We've been in this podcasting game for a long time, but you really are an example of someone who has put this dream into drive, right? It's funny because I think I was listening into one of your previous interviews, and you were talking about as a kid, you either want to be your own boss or be a millionaire, right?
Yes.
And have you achieved those dreams yet? Are you on you're still on the being your own boss part of that, right?
Yeah, well, I'm definitely my own boss, which is great. So I've had opportunities. People have approached me to work in their companies, and I'm just like, nah, like, I'm okay. If I was struggling or things weren't working, I'm like, but it's going well for me. And in terms of being a millionaire, so yeah, I guess, it's funny. Of all the things I talk about with money and people who interview me, no one's like had like the guts to ask me that. So kudos to you, Raina. But yeah, I guess, in terms of assets,
talk that talk, girl. I say that only because I think, this podcast is called Dreams and Drive. And I think for so many of us, a lot of people who are listening, finances are a big thing. Getting out of debt is a big thing, right? Feeling stuck is a big thing. And I think a lot of people feel like they just can't achieve it. And I think your story is one of, you can have that desire, but there are certain things you have to do in order to get there, right? So maybe let's talk about, I know you're giving me a signal there, but let's talk about maybe that part of it, the journey, because your podcast is called Journey to Launch, right? And this podcast is called Dreams and Drive. We're all about movement, but with any type of movement, you have to have a starting place and you have to know where you want to go, right? So take us through how you were able to truly make that a reality, and steps that you took that other people listening in can also enact as well.
Yeah. Before I answer that, I did want to jump in when you were talking, because it made me realize that I need to share more about not necessarily how much, I have in investments, but, I don't make $1 million. My family, my husband and I combined, we don't bring in $1 million of income a year, but we can consider ourselves millionaires based on our assets. And I know people define it differently. And I just want to say that because I think, sometimes you hear that word and it does feel very like I don't make $1 million. I make nowhere close to that. But I do know thousandaires who are millionaires on the back end. And it's not necessarily always shown in the material things we have. So I don't drive the nicest car. Maybe if you didn't know who I was, you would be like, how is she talking about money? And so I don't think I look, I just feel like there's a certain perspective, especially in our community, based on how people look or what they drive. And I do want to just debust or debunk that for people, because you can be wealthy, you can be secure, and you may not always have the material items to show for it, because it's in your bank account, it's in your investment accounts. You can pay your mortgage or rent. So back to your question about the journey and steps people can take. So I think the first thing, I talk about this in the book, that there's so many places we can go, but I'll start with this.
Okay.
The journey to complete financial independence, and the way that I talk about it, is this idea, the reality that you don't have to ever work again for money, because you have saved and invested enough in your investment accounts, retirement accounts, taxable accounts, businesses, maybe side hustles that are more passive, that you don't have to actively work for money ever again. So you can literally live off of those investments and do whatever you want, and you can choose to work if you want. That is the end point and like the dream, right? And a lot of people hear that and they're like, of course I'd want that, like not having to work.
How do I get to it, right? Is it attainable? I don't got no money to start with, right?
So I knew that when I first heard it, like it felt like that a little bit for me. But as I started to go down the path and, I created these journeyer stages to help people acclimate to where they were and figure out like where they were on the spectrum of the journey. And so there are 5 journeyer stages you need to travel through to reach financial independence. So the first journeyer stage I call the explorer stage. That is where you are trying to get to stability. Stability meaning maybe you can't pay your bills or pay expenses without getting into the red every month, without putting things on credit card. You feel out of control with your finances. And so the goal in this stage is like, let's get to stability. It's not about saving or investing or paying off additional debt. We're just trying to get you to stability. Once you get to stability, you can move on to the next stage, which is called the cadet stage. That's about becoming consumer debt free. So I don't include mortgages or student loans in this stage. It's more credit cards, maybe car loans, but any debt that's high interest or that you want to pay off in this stage, you put in stage 2 or the cadet stage. Once your consumer debt...
Question. Yeah. What do you think is the biggest challenge from going to explorer to cadet?
So I think in general, the biggest challenge for the earlier stages, especially these 2 earlier stages, is going to be mindset and habits. So one of the things that affect all stages are your mindset and your habits. But typically, if you're in this stage, right, like you have to determine if you're in this stage because of an income problem or an expense problem or a habits or mindset problem. And it can be all 4, or it can be 1 or 2. But there are people who earn a lot of money that are in that first stage. It's not based on income. There are people who are earning enough or a lot, but they're out of control with their expenses and so they do feel unstable and they have to get to stability. And then there are people who are in that stage, that first stage, who don't earn enough to be able to like live the life that they deserve or need to because they don't make enough money. And so their focus needs to be on income. But then if you drill down, right, like there are circumstances out of people's control, right? I mean, like there are things, policy changes and societal changes that need to happen in terms of minimum wage and the way people are treated in this country that you can't change from, individual person unless you become an activist, right? But what are the things that you can do to help increase your own income? And, that's when I think about that. I think about my mom who started working minimum wage jobs, but knew she had to persevere and get her education to put herself in a better position. So in those, especially that first or second stage, if you have an income problem, is what can you do to grow your income? And it might not be an immediate solution. It could be a couple year plan, right? It might take some more investment actually of money if you have to go back to school.
Yeah.
So I typically say like the first 2 stages feel and can be the hardest but it also depends on your income. Like what is your issue in that stage? Is it expenses that you really are spending more than you need to and you can't afford that right now? Or do you have the mindset that you can't do it? There are some people who literally feel like there's no point. I cannot do this.
And I feel like that's the toughest one for a lot of us, right? It's like getting out of that mindset of like, it's not for me. And I don't know, can you teach that to someone?
So, I think that the journey to financial independence, we talk about increasing our income, optimizing or spending less, increasing assets, so investing, saving, and then paying down debt. There are all these external things we need to do to move through the stages that I'll share more about. But ultimately, and those are tangible, like you can write down all those numbers of those things. But then there are 2 intangibles that impact your journey just as much, or if not more than the tangible. And that is your mindset and habits. And they make the tangible sustainable and they make the tangible happen. Because if you don't believe you can do it, if you don't have the right habits and daily actions in place, then you won't even attempt to do it. So I do believe that a lot of times we focus on just the external, like I just want to make more. And then you're not making more, or you don't believe you can make more. And so you don't attempt to, or you always self-sabotage. And it's because you're not addressing like the inner journey it takes to accomplish those things. And sometimes, like that change is definitely not going to be overnight, because we are dealing with society, our parents, our culture, our immediate surroundings, right? And like for someone who doesn't have the inner kind of strength to do that, it's going to be a little bit harder. And so I talk about finding ways to adjust your mindset. There are prompts in the book and resources. But for example, right, mindset. How do you change your mindset? For me, I didn't know financial independence was possible. I didn't even know it existed. So sometimes it's just exposure, right? And you can get exposed to something, but still not believe it's for you. And I think about, why was I exposed to this movement and to certain things? And why did I still believe, even though I didn't have any proof that I could do it? Why did I believe that I should attempt this journey? And a lot of that has to do with my upbringing, I think. A mom who really instilled in me self-confidence. But, and so some of that, yes, it's like nurture versus nature. And you can't maybe help who raised you and the things they implanted in you. But then how can someone teach that to themselves? How can they parent or mother or father themselves and work on that? And so I always think things like immersing yourself into the world you want to live in. Meaning, when I learned about financial independence, I listened to all the podcasts, read all the blogs of people that I could relate to or not relate to, but I can learn from, that were doing it. Oh, a teacher is a millionaire. How did that teacher do that? And I'm reading and listening, not to disprove what they're saying. I mean, you still have to be careful with, there's a lot of scamming going on online.
Not everybody, right?
But, right. But it's like, okay, what can I learn from this? Someone will always have more privileges and assets and things that you don't have, right? And so that's always going to be the case. But in the same regard, you will have more privileges and assets than someone else. And so recognizing that and learning and immersing myself in this world allowed me to feel like things could be real. So I recommend that for people, is that, okay, you're listening and you're hearing this thing about financial independence. You're just like, no way. So it's like, prove yourself wrong, right? Like, I like to prove myself wrong. If I have a negative thought about something, let me see if I can prove myself wrong about that. Let me ask better questions of myself. Not, can I reach financial independence? Because you don't know enough yet to ask that question. Because you're either going to say yes or no, but you don't understand or know yet what you don't know. It's more of, how can I reach financial independence? What do I need to learn about financial independence? And be open to not knowing everything before you start. And so immersing yourself in the environment you want to do, and that could be virtually or listening to podcasts, following accounts that you feel inspired by, reading books, Your Journey to Financial Freedom, and keeping an open mind, even if you don't completely believe it just yet. And then there are things like therapy, right? There are deeper issues some of us have that it's not just going to be listening to something that's going to help. It's like, you maybe need professional help, or, a mindset coach, or just putting yourself in an environment where you're working on you as your best asset and the internal things it takes.
So Dream Drivers, I'm a few months into this mother of two life, changing diapers every day. Luckily for me, I'm a Pampers Swallowers mama, so I don't have much to worry about when it comes to changing time. Did y'all know that Pampers Swallowers features a blowout barrier at the back waist to help prevent up to 100% of leaks, even blowouts? So I can rest assured that I'll have superior leak protection while keeping my baby skin healthy and dry. And listen, need a hot baby shower gift for parents to be in 2024? Pampers now has Pampers Diaper Stashes, which is an online diaper fund so you can get the diaper stockpile that never has to run out. It's the gift that always fits. You can take the guesswork out of choosing what size and how many diapers to gift. And it's easy to use. You just create a surprise diaper stash account, share the link with family and friends, watch that stash grow, and then give the stash to the parents-to-be so they can buy Pampers diapers and wipes whenever they like. And I wish I had this for my baby shower because, honestly, it just allows others to contribute in a way that allows us parents to buy what we need when we need it. Gifting physical diapers is cool, but that diaper stash fund gives that ease and flexibility back in the hands of us mamas. Pampers, thanks for the new ways to allow family and friends to say, we've got you. Dream Drivers, in today's world, it seems the best treatment is reserved only for a few. Well, Discover wants to change that by making everyone feel special. That's why with your Discover card, you have access to 24/7 live customer service as well as $0 fraud liability, which means you're never held responsible for unauthorized purchases. Finally, no matter who you are or where you are in life, you'll feel special with Discover. Learn more at discover.com/creditcard. Limitations apply. So before we move off from Cadet, last question here is, should you be taking anyone along with you at this stage?
So, it's great to have people in your, whether real life or online life, that you can look to for support and help. So when you say take with you, like if you are still in debt and you have friends that are still in debt, you can say to each other, like, let's do this challenge and let's set this goal, but that we will pay off our respective debts, right? And so to me, that in a way, that's taking someone with you. But you saying like, hey, I'll pay off someone else's debt or I'll take on more than I can bear, that puts you deeper into debt or puts you at risk to sinking, is not going to serve anyone. Because once you drown or sink, how are you going to help anyone else? So I do think that unless it is like that someone is really, on the brink, that you save yourself first. You put on your own oxygen mask before you help others. And you can take them along with you mentally and educationally. Like, maybe I can't give you money to do this thing, but here's what I'm learning. So I'm going to share this free resource with you. I'm going to buy this book for you. And that's how I can take you with me.
I say that only because I feel like a lot of people, especially within our culture, and even coming as Caribbeans, right? I think it's like you sometimes feel like you're leaving people behind when you get on this journey of trying to get yourself out of, the generational curses and building generational wealth for yourself. So I'm really happy that you mentioned that. All right. So we're at cadet. What's next?
Okay. So once you become consumer debt free, the next stage is the aviator stage, and that is the stage where you are building your assets. So you don't have consumer debt. You have more of your income. You can decide where it goes. So you could decide that you want to invest more in your investment accounts, retirement accounts, save for life events, or maybe you want to spend more on discretionary expenses. You want to, upgrade your lifestyle. That's up to you. But this stage is called, building security. You're building more financial security. After you build whatever financial security looks like for you, you can move on to the next stage, which is stage 4, journeyer stage 4. That is the commander stage. That is the work flexible stage. That's the stage I'm currently in. So that's the stage where work is flexible, where it's not that you don't ever have to work again. You still may need to work in the future, but you can take breaks. You can try something different. You can leave a situation that doesn't serve you. Work becomes flexible. And that's the commander stage. And then the final stage is the captain stage. That is the stage where you don't have to ever work again for money. You can either choose to work or chill on the beach, do whatever you want. The thing I will say about the stages is, I just broke them down into just 5 stages. Mm-hmm. But those stages can take years or decades depending on what you have working for you or the amount of work you're putting in. And so, and what one stage for someone like getting out of debt may take 2 years, and for another person may take 10. And the thing I want to make sure is clear that is each stage, just starting the journey, puts you in a mindset and reality of having more freedom. So the book is called Your Journey to Financial Freedom. I explained what financial independence is. It's that end goal. It's never having to work again. But financial freedom is something you can achieve on your way to financial independence. It is still maybe having debt, but feeling confident or having a debt payoff plan. It is still maybe, you're not where you need to be in investments, but you now understand what an index fund is because you took the time to, research it and learn about it. And so it's not necessarily an external thing or number that you're checking off about financial freedom. It's your ability to have options, and you can still have options in any of these stages. So, I just want to encourage anyone, if they find themselves, especially in the beginning stages, which is where most people are, when they're not intentionally looking at their finances, is that you can still have freedom in this stage, because $100 paid off that you didn't pay off yesterday is allowing you or buying back more of your time and energy freedom.
Yeah. And I feel like, maybe for you, what has financial freedom allowed you to dream of that you never had before, right? Like, or what, not even dream, what dreams have you been able to really make come true for yourself? And maybe let's look at it within the context of what has happened over the last 5 years in your life, right? Because so much stuff has happened. Amazing.
Well, and that's why I say, like, this is a journey. Like, I wish I could shout it from the mountaintops. Like, the journey to financial independence, it's a non-failable goal. And the reason is because you set your sights on this big goal. And I know for some people, setting a goal so high can discourage them. But I want to switch it around and say no, because even if you fail at this goal, let's just say you're like, okay, I want to reach financial independence in X amount of years, but that means I need like $1 million or $2 million invested to help support whatever lifestyle I want. And then in 10 or 15 years, you don't have $1 million, you only have 200 or 300,000. But if you didn't start this journey, you wouldn't have any of that because you wouldn't have done it. Right. So it's a win-win anyway. And so for me, when I first started my journey, I had my sights set on, I'm going to quit my job by 40 years old and reach financial independence, my version of it, where I didn't have to work. My husband could work, that's fine. But like, because he still wanted to actually, but me, I'd be able to quit. We can live off his income and our investments and we'll be all right. And then as I started going on, I realized that I didn't want to sacrifice my energy and time working at a job I didn't love just for the money when I had life to live. And I had 3 kids now at this point. And so I was like, no, I actually want to experience freedom earlier. And so I quit my job so that I could have more time and energy freedom. And that was before, having millions of dollars in the bank or in our investments. But I had bought myself, by putting myself on this path, I had set myself up really well financially to take more risk in the now. And so, I was able to quit my job, and like the freedom I'm experiencing, like this morning I went for a run, or just random mornings where after I drop my kids off, I have time for myself. And I'm just like, wow, like I can't believe this is my life. I was confined to a cubicle and a crazy commute, and I didn't know that this life could be possible. I thought I had to, again, be rich, marry rich, win the lottery. And I've done none of those things. So my poor husband, sometimes I think, he shouldn't listen to when I talk about that.
But when he's probably like, yo, can you you making me
stop saying that. First of all, he does very well for himself and he's an awesome husband. But no, but like, I'm not, I can't like, I don't know. So the point is, I think that for a lot of people, they don't know how fast things can actually happen for them and change once they start a journey, because I had no clue that I'd be sitting here with a book. Even when we spoke in 2018, I had definitely aspirations. I wanted Journey to Launch to do well and at least to provide a lifestyle for myself. And I wanted to do that on my way to financial independence. So, even if it took me longer to get to my goal, I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I have more flexibility and control. So if it takes me 15 years longer, as long as I'm enjoying my work, that's fine. And I just know that that's a pathway that everyone can experience. So when I talk about the 5 journey levels, I do believe the 5th stage is a very, it's not impossible to get to, but I can see how, I'm not going to tell everyone that everyone can get there. But I do believe everyone can get to the 4th stage. I do believe everyone can get to the stage, yes, that commander stage where work is flexible. Again, doesn't mean you never work again, but you can choose what you do for work out of because of joy, because of feeling like you are contributing to the world, or take a break. Like that is a stage I actually think most, if everyone or not everyone, that is the stage I believe most people or everyone can get to.
Yeah, and I just often think, like, I was thinking about, dang, when was the last time I've seen you, right? And I forgot about this until prepping for this interview. But remember when you were going to have a live show? And you were helping me. Yes. And it was right before the pandemic. And, we were like looking at venues in Brooklyn. And it's often funny how like things could change. The pandemic came, and for the past, it's about to be 4 years. That's crazy that. It's about to be 4 years coming up that we've all been riding within this wave. Like change is something that like you can't predict things that have happened. Has there been anything along this journey over the past 5 years that has kind of knocked you off course? And then how did you get back? Or, things that you had to like figure out how to react to, or things you weren't expecting, but you made it work in some way.
So I'd say that definitely becoming a full-time entrepreneur, and now seeing that my choice, right, of leaving my job that had, I had a 6-figure salary and guaranteed income as much as it can be guaranteed from someone else. And then coming into a situation where, the money isn't guaranteed. My income fluctuates, and there's some good months or good years, and there are some where this, I can get like a 6-figure brand deal, and then some years are slow, right? And so for me, I've toyed or thought in the past, and I'm sure I might still think of this. So the thing about me is I'm still on my journey, and I try to be as vulnerable as possible sharing that, where it's just like, did I make the right choice? Because when it's good, it's good. Yeah. And then when it's like uncertain, it's like, Raina, because I know you went back and forth between entrepreneurship and then going back to work. And for me, I think wanting things to happen and then things not panning out. Maybe it's a business opportunity, or there were times before I got my book deal where I'm like, oh, that would be really great. Like I wanted this agent, and I reached out to them and I was like, I'm ready to write a book. And they were just like, I don't think I can help you, but I was glad they were honest, but then it makes you question, okay, am I on the right path? Because if she doesn't think she can help me, am I doing this right? And then, a couple years later, I have like 5 or 6 agents who want to rep me, and then my book goes to auction. And so it's like, some of the things that knock us off are not always big. In terms of tragedies or big events, I think sometimes people who like kind of live more mundane, like lives, and there's
like
no big thing, or just like, a lot of people are experiencing big things, which, are very impactful. I almost feel like those things, at least, like, wow, it's an impact. And I think so many of us experience these small disappointments and this uneasiness about life. Then it's every day. But if you say it, people are like, why are you complaining about that? And I think those can be as equally damaging to maybe our psyche or our motivation on our journey. So for me, of course, like, struggling with balancing, having 3 kids and wanting more time.
1.5, because this one is not really that grown yet. I call him 1.5. You got 3. I don't know how you do it, girl.
Right, but it's like never feeling like you have enough time. All these things, life. Yeah. And so, of course, like in a perfect world, like, and I could like, this would happen this way and this way and this way. And it doesn't happen for me that way necessarily. I know from the outside, sometimes it seems like that. But, for me, I think it's been a constant reminder of everything that hasn't happened the way you wanted it to, or all the uncertainty that you have. Think back and like all the ways that things have worked out for you. Even when it doesn't work out, it's working out because there's like a payoff or something, a lesson at the end of it. And the thing about the journey is that because so much of it, yes, we can control some of the things, right? We can control our mindset and our reaction and our effort. Just like I tell my kids, it's about your effort. Like, of course I want you to get in the game and do well, but I'd rather you have effort and practice than just like go out and think you're going to do well in the game. And I think that's our journey. Is like, we can put as much effort in as possible, but there's so many factors outside of us that will impact that. And that's why it's so important on the journey that you make it an internal one, not just an external one based on numbers. So, let's just say you're a person that you're just like, I don't think a budget is for me, or I have no clue about debt. I'd rather just not do it. And you now listening to this or wanting to learn more, say to yourself, you know what, I'm going to try. Let me look at a budgeting app, or let me like Google budget, Google Sheets budget. And you like for the first time attempt it. To me, right? Like that actually signifies a change in yourself, that you're willing to do something different. That is a big step. And so it's the little things like that. It's who you become and who you have to become on this journey that changes you. Because all the other things can be wiped away. We can have a market crash tomorrow, and then, my investment accounts go from gazillion to zero.
Happen. Don't even speak it into existence. It's not gonna
right.
happen.
And I don't want that. But I just feel like our best asset is ourselves, and our best resources are our people around us and community and our relationships. And those are not, that's not money. That is like, do you feel safe, or do you feel that people love you? Do you love people? Are you proud of yourself? Like these are all like the things that to build up within yourself, so that when all those external things happen, they will suck. You will cry about it. It'll put you back, maybe financially put you back in another journey or stage, but you have the ability to move forward because you're building yourself up into someone who can withstand all that.
One of the things that I admire about you from like the back end and what, our podcast mastermind and just having conversations is like, one of the things I've noticed is like you taking a lot of investing in yourself, right? Like I remember when you talked about, I think you were part of a mastermind at one point. It was like a high ticket mastermind. You're like, but it's worth it. We were all like, girl, you paid how much for that? Or even like, investing in a stylist and, I think you had like a whole rebranding, like your website. Like there were things that you were like legitimately saying, you know what? I believe in myself. I'm going to invest in myself monetarily. And that's going to come back to me. And that's always been something I've taken away from just seeing you evolve, is that you've been more confident even than just saying like, I'm going to invest in me, Jamila, and it's going to pay out. And I think that's something that we all could do more along our dream driving journeys, right?
Yes. Okay. So investing in ourselves, that is definitely one thing. And I don't, I'm still probably maybe cheap or think about a decision too much. And it's just like, Jamila, just do it. Like, really?
Yeah.
Like, you just pay the
But you
money.
still did it, and it's still inspiring
Right.
to us who don't, who not seeing everything that you're thinking about while making that decision.
Right. But I think back to, even getting my book deal. So I got a really great, it's called significant deal in the publishing industry because there's ranges on how much like that money is. And I got a significant one, and that was my goal. Right. And so I like to deconstruct the end goal. So if I see a goal that I want, I like to work backwards and reverse engineer how I'm going to get there. So I knew I wanted, when I learned first, like what these small like sayings meant when you read a book announcement, that there's this, they call a nice, I think it's nice deal, good deal, significant
really
deal,
the
and
real
major
terminology?
deal. Yeah. So if you go, it's very like, this whole publishing world is like totally, it's very interesting. And I don't know who like told me or how I found out that there was, but someone said it in a podcast and they were like, you'll see these like announcements and then they'll have this author got a significant deal. And this is what that meant. That I think if I can remember from the top of my head, significant deal goes from 250,000 to 499,000 as an advance that you would get. That's like what significant deal means. And then there's ranges. So I knew an author who got a significant deal, and I knew of authors who had gotten significant deals. And I was like, well, if they could get a significant deal, I could get a significant deal. And so I was like, well, how did they do that? Or who were the people on their team that got them to do that? And I knew in order for someone to get a significant deal or for publishers to want to bid on a book for them, they'd need a great proposal and they need a great agent. And then they would need a platform that could prove they can promote and sell a book. So I was just like, all right, I'm going to invest and work on getting all three of those things. And when it came time to find someone to help me write a proposal, I invested and I paid someone to help me do that. When it came time to write a book, so my goal too was not just to get like a lot of money to write my book, but it was to actually write a great book. I said to myself, based on my research, I know these publishers mean well, but they're not going to be doing, I think, what they need to in terms of helping me, like hand-holding me through the process of writing. So I hired a book coach with my own money. And so those are the things like I like to think back on. What is the end result and product that I want? And this you could think about for something else. Maybe you don't want to write a book. You want to own a business. You want to do something. Maybe you want to go to school. You're looking at someone in your company and just like, I want that role. For me, when I was in corporate America, even if I didn't really like enjoy it, I would still be talking to those people and figuring out how they got there and figuring out what steps I need to do to get myself there. And so whether that is investing time or money or energy, I just feel like investing in yourself doesn't always need like a lot of money. It can first start out as, I'm going to invest some time to learn people's names and to learn how to talk to people or email people to get to a point where I can have a meeting. And so I believe investing in ourselves is like just an understatement of how important it is. And it doesn't always have to be money, but sometimes it involves money.
Yeah, and it's like also a commitment to the journey, right? Because once you put the money down, it's like you got to follow through unless you just want to waste it. I don't like wasting money, right? So it's like it's kind of like I'm going to physically commit to this journey that I'm on. But Jamila, as we wind down, I would love for you to kind of talk to us about like what keeps you going, right? Because you're in commander stage right now, and you could say I'm good. Like I don't even need to get to the end goal, right? But what's that thing that really keeps you motivating, or in times where like you might feel like giving up? I don't feel like that's you right now, but who knows what the future entails, right? But yeah, tell our listeners that.
So I think I still want to reach financial independence. Like I love Journey to Launch and I love doing all this, but I wouldn't mind like one day and be like, I don't gotta do a podcast.
Closing down the show, y'all.
Right. Or like, okay, I'm only gonna pop up and do like a podcast really whenever I want. I was talking to someone who I really admire in this the financial space. And I was like, oh, my book is coming out. And then, we're pretty cool now. But he was just like, I'm not doing interviews right now. Like, I haven't done them for a year. I really try to only do it when I feel like it. And even though it was disappointing because I wanted to go on his podcast, I was like, yes, because he's financially independent. Like, he doesn't have to do any of this. And I was like, that is what I want. It's like, I'm not feeling it. So I'm not going to do it. And sometimes, like, even if I'm not feeling it, I still got to do it because, I still want to make money. There's lifestyle I want to give my kids. I'm trying to take them to Disney, all these things. And so I'm still on the journey to financial independence. And so that's what motivates me is that maybe, it might take a little more years, and that's fine. But I want to put myself in a position where I can be like that guy. And, someone emails me, even if it's, some money, but it's not enough for me to get out of bed or to not go for that morning run. I'm like, it's just not something I want to do. I still want to get to that place. So that's why I'm still on my journey.
Oh, I love that. So, if you want to be a dream driver, you have to have your keys to success. So beyond just getting your new book on December 5th, that, when it launches, what are 3 things that dream drivers need in their toolkit before they hit the road? They'll have their book in their hand, though, right? They'll have their book.
Yeah. I want to give some practical things. So I know I feel like we've been talking high level and conceptually about things, but like people are like, all right, but like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I have bills, I have debt. Mm-hmm. So I would say you need, ultimately you need a budget. So a budget is a plan for your money, and whether you do a digital budget, like YNAB is one of many digital apps you can use, YNAB, that you connect on your phone, or you just do Google Sheets. Google Sheets, if you Google it, has budget templates. But you need a plan for your money so you can start deciding and telling it what to do. A lot of times now, the money is telling you what to do. You're just like, it's flinging you around. You're the boss. So, you need a budget and a plan for your money so you can at least see what is happening with your finances and where you can squeeze out money and to do the goals or have the goals you want. So that's the first thing, having a budget. I'd say the second thing is to have a support system and community around you. And it's great if it's a two-way community, meaning it's like someone that actually knows you also and is encouraging you, that you can be open about with money. But I know for some people, that's not always immediately something they can find. So, I do recommend, finding a podcast or finding a blog or like joining kind of these virtual communities and learning, and from even just observing, and then slowly inching your way in to meet people with, whether it's a free Facebook group or following people online so you can get encouragement for your journey, because that's important. And then I'd say probably the last thing is just the mindset piece, which is a little bit intangible, but realizing and knowing within your heart that it's possible for you. Because I really believe if you have a thought in your head, it's there for a reason. Look at maybe a dream that you have or a goal as a memory, not as something that didn't happen yet. Ooh, and so if that's the case, if that's the case, then it's meant for you to have. Because, I don't want to go to the moon. There's things that I just don't have any interest in doing. So it's not a thought. And then there are things that come in my head. I'm like, where did that come from? So, maybe it's something I should explore. And so if there's a dream or an idea that you've thought of, it's not silly. It's not intangible. You thought of it for a reason. So think about how you're going to get it.
Ooh, I love that. So Jamila, tell our audience where they can find you online and where they can purchase your book, because by the time this is up, your book will be live for the people to make you a New York Times bestseller.
By the way, Raina, it's so hard to sell books, but we're gonna get some books sold.
We manifested it, right? We manifested it.
But yeah, okay. So you can get the book anywhere books are sold, but go to yourjourneytofinancialfreedom.com. That's the book website, and you'll see all the places: bookshop.org, Target, Walmart, Amazon. You can just type the book name in there, but go to yourjourneytofinancialfreedom.com. See what bonus I have for ordering the book. I'm doing bonuses for people who buy. So it might be a free course you get by the time you're listening to this podcast, and you get it immediately. If you want to become a journeyer, so I call anyone on this path with me journeyers. So if you want to achieve freedom in your life, you don't enjoy what you're doing, you want to be liberated and you want to liberate yourself, like it's possible and you can learn it through the strategies and things in this book, then come join me. I'm also on social media at Journey to Launch on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and TikTok. But, I haven't really been doing much on TikTok. And also I have Instagram at Jamila Souffrant as my more personal brand. But you can connect with me there.
What do you think young Jamila would say to you now?
I knew it. So she'd probably be like, wondering how she was like all these big things she had in her head, like be like, how would you do that? But now looking back, she'd be like, I knew you'd do it. And I'm still doing it. I really think that this is potentially just the beginning. So we'll see.
We'll see. 5 years from now, we're gonna be like, on your airplane. You're like, come meet me on my private jet. Well, you probably will have a private jet. Like let's rent a private jet for an hour, and we'll
right.
All right. Thank you so much, Jamila. This has been, so fun catching up with you. And I really am excited to read your book and just wishing you so much more to come, girl.
Thank you so much, Raina.
All right, so that's the wrap for this episode of Dreams and Drive. I hope you enjoyed our guests' dream driving journey as well as listening to their keys to success. If you love this episode, you know what to do. Please make sure that you are following us. We are at Dreams and Drive across social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So make sure you're sharing this episode, posting it to your Instagram stories, texting it to a friend, sharing on LinkedIn, wherever you are or online. Just pay this forward and share this with somebody. We really appreciate it. And all the sharing that you do helps us grow our community. If you want to join our email newsletter, The Keys, and get weekly updates delivered to your inbox, just go to dreamsanddrive.com/join. That's dreamsanddrive.com/join. And lastly, if you know somebody who would be great for this show, or if you are someone who would be great for this show, please go to dreamsanddrive.com/pitch. I'm always accepting new guests. I'm always accepting new pitches. So I love to see those pitch requests coming in. Keep dreaming, keep driving, and we'll chat again in the next episode. Bye, guys.